Well, hello, all my family and friends and good neighbors. Tracy Denton here, and this is the video we've all been waiting for. Is all of the groundwork and homework that I've done in regards to finding the right shed for what I'm wanting, and all of the things that I've learned in the meantime as to possibly fitting for your needs, to where even though I went one particular route, some of the other routes that I ended up getting information about, I think might be helpful for some of y'all that are listening, all of my 35 subscribers. And thank you guys so much. And thank you so much for your patience. But anyhow, just as a little recap, as you know, I have been working towards making and putting together my own little she shed, or I'm calling it my inspiration station, to putting together for all of my art, for art classes. The shed is going to be, or the building is going to be large enough to having private classes. And I'm also going to be doing live YouTube videos and tutorials and things like that, and also a space to put all of my equipment and all of my products and everything, and putting together kits, which is going to be kind of, once this part is all done, you're going to walk with me as I start learning how to put together mail out kits, which are pretty cool. But let me pull myself back. I'm notorious for that. But we, meaning Bruce and I, because Bruce actually had a lot of input on some of the stuff, and I certainly did appreciate all of that. Now I'm going through all of my notes, and one of the things that's going to be kind of a challenge for me is pasting this little intro plus the information for contacting some of these companies if you're so interested in wanting to learn more. So be patient with me as I go through that. But anyhow, what I had found with putting together a shed, you can make it as easy or as complex as you want. And so, depending on your level of ability and basic construction knowledge and expertise, what might be complex to me might be something that would be easy peasy to somebody else. And so one of the bases that I started with is like with my dad. Well, he could put together something, just scratching it out on a piece of paper and knowing how to do that, because he was an expert carpenter and self-taught. And so I was like, okay, if Dad was wanting to maybe get a little bit of an assistance, where would he start? And that would have been with getting some blueprints. You can either make your own blueprints, or you can purchase them. And I found that there were several ways to purchase blueprints for making a shed. It's the cheapest route to go, because you're basically doing everything from start to finish. And it's very obviously customizable. You can make it as big or as small. The windows, the doors, flooring, the roof, the whole design is, whatever it is that you want it to be. One of the companies that I found that looked like it had the most comprehensive information was called shedplans.org. And they have free basic plans, which is great, and you can print that all up, to the premium blueprints that they're anywhere from $19.99 on up. And by looking at the type of better construction sheds that they've got the blueprints for, your cost to building something kind of basic would be anywhere from like $1,500 on up, depending on, the quality of the materials that you would be using and the size, obviously. And typically, by looking at their notes, they said it takes about 4 days for a beginner to put together some of their more basic sheds. Now, they had some sheds that you would be more of an intermediate knowledge to advanced. And anyhow, that would be probably, like I said, something my dad or my brother Jim would be able to do. And those, they include the materials list from, the site prep to the walls, the sides, the flooring, the roof, the hardware that you would need. And they list it all out step by step. And it's got photos for each step, like for your foundation, how you would have that look, depending on what size you would get. But again, it would be very customizable. And so that looked like it would be a pretty comprehensive thing to do. Now, next, Pinterest also has blueprints in a PDF form with photos and things like that. YouTube has videos on how to, which I'm sure if you were to do something and you're still not real sure on that, some of the YouTube videos are so comprehensive and great. I refer to them for so many different things that I'm putting together. It's just so nice to have that handyman that you can watch, because I'm a visual learner, to have that. And so I will post up some of the different things that I found through Pinterest and YouTube. And but all of these, they recommend some basic carpentry knowledge and understanding. And also, good idea for you to have the tools like the saws and hammers and measuring devices and different things like that in order to be able to put these things together. And the other thing would be patience, to have the time and the patience to putting something together with the blueprint. And if you've got the knowledge to do it, then that's the best way to go. Amazon also has how-to books, and they ranged anywhere from $15 to $20. All sorts of just books on how to do it. Now, I think my dad had quite a library of different books on how to do those things. Some of them from like Good Housekeeping. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank. But anyhow, those would be doable, and purchasing blueprints from Amazon, and also Etsy and that sort of thing. The next thing, which was what I was strongly recommending, was the kits. It's got all of the supplies that you need and the hardware and all of that. And depending on the size and the materials, it can be a usable option for pretty much anything. Now, the smaller ones, you can get through Amazon, through Lowe's, that sort of thing. These kits that are made out of the heavy-duty blow molded HDPE, and that stands for high density polyethylene plastics. And it's the same type of plastics that some of our PVC pipe is made out of, milk jugs, different things like that. And that's always a nice option as well. And those kits can come with or without the flooring. No roof shingles if you go with wood. The plastic ones, guys, those are more for, just leaning up against your house, for putting your tools. that really wasn't the route I was going towards. That was more, those types of sheds are more utility type sheds, whereas I'm wanting mine to be a functional space that I can stay in and do my work in. And yet, if you're just looking for a shed and you just want to have one that you just pop it together, it literally just like clicks together. Now my bonus son Matt and his wife Alyssa did one of those to putting their yard equipment and stuff in, and he said, and Bruce actually helped with that, and they got really frustrated with it because if any of those walls or anything got bent or distorted, then it makes it very difficult for it to pop together. But it's almost like a Lego set. And but you're on the plastic ones, you're a bit limited on the size in order for them to be structurally sound. But then you could go upgrade to the metal kits. And again, there's lots of different companies that offer these kits. Most of them I did see through Amazon. And by just putting in a search for shed kits, man, all of this stuff popped up. And so since I pretty much said, no, I'm not going to be doing the resin ones, what about the metal? And when I started to look at that, that was not going to be the route I ended up going, because I have come to a decision. But if you can insulate the metal and make it more watertight, that sort of thing, then it's not a bad option. It really isn't. And it's definitely an upgrade. But any of those things will run for a smaller unit from about $300 to about $3,000 for the kit, which is a huge savings. And that was something I did consider because of the cost was so much more pleasing to me. But you have to do your homework, guys. And you got to think about the shipping costs. Now, depending on the different companies, some of them actually had free shipping within a certain radius of their home site. Some were free shipping throughout the continental US, that sort of thing. But the shipping can be another $200 to $700 because some of the things can get pretty heavy, and the way they have to be shipped. So another option would be Costco, Walmart, for the resin kits and some of the metal sheds. And again, it's a good idea to have basic construction knowledge. And I will also pin and show some of the samples of the kits in between if that's something that you want to look for. Now, also too, the more substantial ones, or basic, would have been Wayfair, Lowe's, and then Shed Liquidators was a big one that I found that was a kit that these were mostly made out of wood or some type of particle board, and very customizable. I love that option. And for doors and windows, and you get all of the stuff, and they put all of the things together on the pallets and just kind of vacuum wrap it all around, and then it gets shipped to your home, and then you put it together. It's also obviously going to have the instructions and stuff, but you have to make sure to have your ground already set up and ready to go. Or if you need to buy the flooring, you can buy for an additional, I think, $1,500, the flooring kit. And so obviously that would be something that we wanted, because I looked into concrete. That was not going to be an option for our space because it was going to be impossible to get a concrete truck in our backyard, and it was just going to be a mess. So, and expensive. But anyhow, One of the places that I found that had some really neat kits was called the Little Cottage Company. Now, they are out of Millsburg, Ohio. And what was cool, and you're like, Ohio, Tracy, you're in Texas. What are you talking about? Well, my son, Scott, and his wife, Jessica, and their son live in Canton, Ohio. When I looked up Millsburg, Ohio, it was a little over an hour away. Now, I had already planned on going out to visit the family because Wes was graduating from kindergarten, and I'll put in a couple little pictures, and he's so cute. And so I thought this would be great. So I called the company asking them if they'd be open to having me tour their facility and maybe have one of their sales representatives have an interview. And unfortunately, well, at first they were. And then when I showed up, then they rescinded. Now, I don't know why. Maybe it's for privacy or concerns of letting out their trade secrets or something, or a safety thing. But they did have a few of the sheds kind of out in the back, maybe a display. And they look like they're really nice, well to put together sheds. And so they're one of the ones that had the free shipping. Again, very customizable, that sort of thing. And not only did they have sheds, but they've got little adorable playhouses, greenhouses, and animal shelters like chicken coops and dog kennels and stuff like that. And I was very impressed with their product, and I was really hoping to get to talk to them. But even though they weren't open to that, I still feel like they are mention worthy because I think they've got it down. They started back in 1998 or 1999 out there in Ohio. And by the way, it was in the middle of Amish country. And I just enjoyed once I got there. And even though they turned me away, I got some of their information, because so I will be posting that. But I just kind of took a tour of that area myself, had some lunch, checked out some of the farmers markets, and of course all the cheese, all of the meat and everything. And then they did have a couple of the Amish folks within the community with a cart and a horse and wearing their traditional Amish clothing. And it was just super quaint. And I loved the fact that there were no fast food restaurants. It was just tucked away in this area, kind of lost in time. It was beautiful, and I'm glad I went out there. And I think if I were to go the route of doing a kit, I would be really, really tempted to go towards their company because of the quality of their product. And so anyhow, theirs is LTL, or shipped LTL freight, and they also do a quick shipment plan on some of their more standard sheds. But if you wanted to get something more customized, then you would need to be a little more patient with that. Now, by the kits, now some of them, like the shed liquidators, they have the walls, they put the walls together, and some of the other things are put together. Now with this company, all of the wood is cut to size, and then you get the very detailed list of instructions with the diagrams and stuff like that, to where for somebody that's more of a novice, I think would be doable. But again, you've got to be patient. Read as many of that as you can, watch the videos, and kind of like measure twice, cut once type of thing. And, you just need to be patient. And I would also recommend that if you go do any of these where you're putting these sheds together, yes, a lot of them can, I'm sure, do on your own by yourself, but it really does help to have two people putting it together, especially when you're trying to upright the walls and that sort of thing. That it does make the task and the project a lot easier if you've got somebody to help you out. Can you do it by yourself? I'm sure you could, especially with those plastic snap together kits, but anything that's going to be a little more substantial, to have somebody help you hold the wall up as you're nailing it or screwing it in or whatever, it would be hard to do that by yourself. So there's that on the kits. And so then the next part was already put together kits. Now, any of you that have gone to Home Depot or Lowe's, you can see those tough sheds that are already put together. Now, obviously, you're a lot more limited on the customizing, because they're 10 by 12 or 8 by 10 or 12 by 20, and you get what you get. That's what you have there on the showroom floor. But if that's what you're wanting, that's not a bad way to go, and they're within a reasonable cost, and they're already put together. You do have some paint choices, that sort of thing. But I was trying to stay away from the bigger mass put together companies, and wanted to go with something that was more locally owned, that sort of thing. So some of these companies may not work for you if you're outside of Texas or Oklahoma or that sort of thing, because you may not have access to getting their kits or their product. So anyhow, I'm going to go through kind of the top ones that I have done, but let's close this out so I can share with you the information and some of the pictures that I got from like Amazon and the Little Cottage Company and all of that stuff. So thank you for listening in, and come back for part 2 of this. Thanks.